What if the greatest advantage you could ever possess was already yours? What if your isolation was not abandonment, but preparation? What if every door that closed in your face was actually sealing off a path that would have destroyed you? History whispers a secret that weak societies desperately try to silence, the secret that Machiavelli knew, the secret that every empire builder discovered in their darkest hour. You are about to learn why walking alone is not your curse. It is your coronation. There comes a moment in certain lives, a moment of brutal clarity. You look around the room and see empty chairs. You check your phone and see silence. You scan your relationships and find absence. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to believe in your vision until it materializes before their eyes. No one is going to push you forward when exhaustion weighs you down. And if you stumble and fall, no one will be there to catch you. For most people, this realization triggers a collapse. They feel abandoned. They feel victimized. They interpret their isolation as evidence of unworthiness. They cry out, asking why they must face the world alone. But for a rare few, this moment is not a tragedy. It is a transformation. It is the exact instant when dependency dies and sovereignty is born. You are listening to this because something inside you recognizes this truth. You carry an ambition that the people around you cannot comprehend. You are exhausted from explaining yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. You are tired of waiting for permission that will never arrive. You are tired of seeking support that was never truly available. Stop waiting. Machiavelli understood something profound about power and achievement. He observed that history is not written by committees. It is not created through consensus. It is forged by individuals who transformed their isolation into an unstoppable force. The belief that you require external support to succeed is perhaps the most limiting myth of our age. This audiobook will show you how to build something extraordinary with zero external support. More importantly, it will reveal why having no one in your corner is actually a strategic advantage, an advantage that gives you capabilities the supported person will never develop. But I must warn you now, this journey requires a fundamental transformation of your psychology. We must remove the part of you that craves validation from others. We must eliminate the herd mentality that keeps most people trapped in mediocrity. If the idea of walking into uncertainty alone frightens you, you may close this now. Return to the comfort of the crowd. They will keep you warm even as they keep you small. But if you are ready to become the kind of person who builds empires from nothing, listen carefully. Let us begin by dismantling the great myth from your earliest memories. You have been conditioned toward dependency. Educational systems taught you to value group projects over individual mastery. Religious institutions taught you to seek community over self-reliance. Society taught you that networking is more valuable than competence. You have been systematically programmed to believe that advancement requires being lifted by others. The phrase echoes everywhere. It is not what you know, but who you know. We hear it constantly. We nod in agreement. We accept it as truth, and it is poison. When you rely on who you know, you are admitting powerlessness without them. You are handing control of your destiny to people who act according to their interests, not yours. Machiavelli wrote with crystal clarity in The Prince, "A wise prince should rely on what is in his own control, not on what is in the control of others." Consider what happens when you seek support. When someone helps you, an implicit debt is created. When someone invests in you, they claim ownership of a piece of your future. When someone provides emotional support, they gain the power to withdraw it and watch you collapse. You think you are building a safety net, but examine it more closely. A safety net and a spider's web serve the same function. Both catch you, but only one sets you free again. The reason you have not yet achieved what you know you are capable of is not because you lack support, it is because you are still searching for it. You are burning irreplaceable mental energy scanning the horizon for a savior. You are diluting your vision to make it acceptable to others. You are waiting for applause before the performance even begins. This must end. You must accept what I call the 0 point. The 0 point is the state of absolute self-reliance. It arrives when you examine your bank account, your contacts, and your resources and see nothing but your own reflection staring back. Most people panic at the 0 point. You will not. You will recognize it as the ultimate form of freedom. If you have zero support, you have zero masters. If no one helped you rise, no one can tear you down. If you built everything alone, you retain complete ownership of everything you create. This is the cold, rational logic of the true outlier. We do not mourn the empty room. We use the space to construct something magnificent. Machiavelli wrote something that has been misunderstood for centuries. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Let us apply this principle to your current isolation. When you seek support, you are seeking to be loved. You want people to approve of your ideas. You want your family to express pride. You want your friends to cheer you forward. You are operating from a foundation of emotional neediness, and neediness repels power with magnetic force. Have you noticed this pattern? The more desperately you seek help, the less you receive. The more you try to explain your grand vision to small-minded people, the more they dismiss you. They sense your desperation, and desperation carries the unmistakable scent of weakness. To succeed with zero support, you must stop trying to be loved. You must start commanding respect through demonstrated competence. This requires a fundamental shift in your internal motivation. You are no longer fueled by encouragement and approval. You are fueled by defiance and determination. You must look at every person who doubted you, every ghost who left you on read, every friend who dismissed your dreams, and you must not feel sadness. You must feel cold, calculated motivation. They do not believe in you? Excellent. That means the opportunity remains wide open. They will not help you? Perfect. That means you will not need to share the rewards. You must reach a psychological state where their indifference does not wound your feelings. It sharpens your focus. Imagine a general standing on a battlefield. He turns to rally his army and discovers they have deserted. He stands alone facing the enemy. Does he sit down and weep about loyalty? No. He assesses his weapons. He assesses the terrain. He realizes something crucial. A single operator moving in shadows is far harder to detect and destroy than a clumsy army marching in daylight. He becomes asymmetrical. You are that general. Your lack of support forces you to become more intelligent. It forces you to move faster. A massive corporation with thousands of employees moves slowly. They hold meetings about meetings. They require consensus before action. You can transform your entire trajectory in a single afternoon because you need no one's permission. You do not require a board of directors. You require a mirror. Stop viewing your isolation as punishment. It is a filter. It is filtering out weak people who would have slowed your progress. It is filtering out false allies who would have betrayed you the moment you achieved success. You are alone because you are being protected from the gravitational pull of other people's mediocrity. The Q. Question now becomes practical. How do you execute this philosophy? How do you wake each morning with zero messages of encouragement and still work with absolute intensity? You enter what I call the ghost phase. This concept derives from strategic warfare and deep psychology. If you have no support, you have no audience. If you have no audience, you have no need to perform, become invisible. Most people fail because they talk away their energy. They conceive an idea and immediately rush to tell a friend. The friend responds with doubt or discouragement. The energy leaks out. They receive a small hit of dopamine simply from discussing the goal. This tricks their brain into believing they have already achieved it, so they stop working. The ghost does not speak. You must take a vow of silence regarding your ambitions. Do not tell your parents. Do not tell your partner. Do not post vague hints on social media. Silence creates internal pressure. When you harbor a massive goal inside you without releasing it through speech, it builds up like steam in a sealed chamber. It transforms into physical energy. It becomes restlessness. It becomes an ache that can only be relieved through action. This is precisely what you need. That pressure is what drives you to work at 2 in the morning when supported people are sleeping. That pressure is the only force powerful enough to break through resistance. When you are alone, you possess the luxury of total immersion. You do not need to attend social obligations. You do not need to maintain masks. You can let the mask fall and let the focused part of you work without interruption. Use your isolation to obsess. Society calls obsession a mental illness. We recognize it as a prerequisite for extraordinary achievement. If you have zero support, you must become obsessed with your craft. You must accumulate more knowledge than anyone else in your field. You must become so technically proficient, so strategically sophisticated that you become undeniable. Steve Martin once said something profound. Be so good they cannot ignore you. Notice he did not say be so likable they want to help you. When you become undeniable, support becomes irrelevant. And here is the paradox. That is precisely when support begins to appear. People are drawn to winners. They avoid strugglers. As long as you appear to be struggling, you look weak. But when you emerge from silence with concrete results, suddenly everyone wants to associate with you. Everyone claims they always believed in you. You will smile, you will nod, but you will never forget who was present when the room was empty, which was no one, only you. To walk this path successfully, you must first grieve. This is the part that shallow motivational content completely ignores. They tell you to hustle harder. They do not tell you that hustling alone carries a specific type of pain. You must grieve the loss of the life you imagined you would have. You thought there would be a cheering sec. Sean supporting you. You thought your parents would understand your vision. You thought your friends would evolve alongside you. They will not. You must conduct a funeral for the version of yourself that needed their approval. This is not metaphorical. This is a visceral, physical pain that manifests in your chest. It feels like betrayal. You will find yourself staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, wondering if you have lost your mind. You will wonder if perhaps they are correct and you are delusional. This is the test that separates pretenders from builders. Every true outlier passes through what I call the valley of shadows. It is the period of time where you have abandoned the herd but have not yet reached your destination. You are in the wilderness. In the wilderness, your mind plays tricks on you. You invent demons that do not exist. You crave the comfort of the cage you just escaped. But you cannot return. You know too much now. Once you have seen the truth that most people are sleepwalking through life, that support is often just mutual sedation. You cannot unsee it. So you must kill the dependent child within you so the sovereign adult can emerge. This requires you to become your own parent. Psychologists call this reparenting, but let us use more precise language. Let us call it self-architecture. You must wake each morning, look in the mirror, and be the father you needed but never had. You must examine your bank account and be the provider you always require. Red. You must observe your emotions and be the therapist you could never afford. You speak to yourself. Literally, get up. We have work that must be completed. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. No one is coming to rescue you. Focus. This is the only path forward. You develop what appears to be a split consciousness. There is the you that feels tired, emotional, and weak, and there is the you that commands. The commander drags the weakling through the fire. Eventually, the weakling dies. Only the commander remains. This is what Machiavelli meant when he discussed the prince having a flexible disposition. You must be willing to be harsh with yourself in the present so you can be kind to yourself in the future. You deny yourself comfort now so you can rule later. If you have zero support, you have no one to enable your weakness. If you sleep past your alarm, no one wakes you. If you do not work, you do not eat. The feedback loop is immediate and unforgiving. This is actually a gift. Comfort is the assassin of greatness. Support often functions as a cushion that prevents you from feeling the consequences of your own laziness. When you are alone, reality hits without padding. You learn rapidly. You adapt immediately. You become what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragile. You grow stronger from stress rather than weaker. Now let us examine the narrative you tell yourself. The average person tells a victim story. I could not start my business because I lacked funding. I could not transform my body because I had no training partner. I could not succeed because no one supported me. You will tell a different story. Not a victim story, a villain origin story. I do not mean you become evil. I mean you become motivated by the slight, by the rejection, by the dismissal. Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest athlete in history, was famous for manufacturing insults. He would convince himself that an opposing player had disrespected him simply to summon the rage necessary to dominate them. You must adopt this psychology. Take every rejection, Every unanswered message, every dismissive look, every doubt expressed about your abilities, place all of it in a mental furnace. They did not support you? Good, document it. They laughed at your idea? Perfect. Remember their faces. They excluded you from opportunities? Excellent. Use it as fuel. Burn it all. Anger is a cleaner fuel than sadness. Sadness makes you heavy. It makes you want to collapse. Anger makes you light. It makes you want to move, to act, to conquer. Machiavelli observed something profound about human nature. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Do not be the victim. Be the one who sees the simplicity in others. Understand that they did not support you because they could not see what you see. They are operating on a different frequency. They obey immediate needs, safety, conformity, ease. You obey a future need, glory, freedom, legacy. You are speaking a language they do not comprehend. Stop attempting to translate it for them. Simply build the tower so high that they must crane their necks upward to see the top. When you succeed with zero support, the victory carries a different flavor. It is pure. There is no one to thank in the acceptance speech. There is no one with whom you must share equity. There is a dark satisfaction in knowing that you walked through fire without burning, even while everyone watched and waited for you to turn to ash. But to reach that point, you must master the art of strategic isolation. Most people are isolated by accident, by circumstance. You must be isolated by design, by choice. Cut the cord. If you are maintaining relationships with people who drain your energy simply because you fear being alone, you are hemorrhaging power. You are paying a social tax to remain in a club you do not even wish to belong to. Stop paying the tax, sit in your room, stare at the wall, feel the silence pressing against you. It will be deafeningly loud at first. Your thoughts will scream accusations at you. You are a failure. You have no friends. You are wasting your life. Let them scream. Observe them. Analyze them. Where do these voices originate? They come from a teacher in 3rd grade who told you that you were not special. They come from a cynical relative who projected their failures onto you. They come from television programming that taught you what normal looks like. These voices are not yours. They are installed software. Once the screaming subsides, and I promise you it will subside, you will hear something else. A quiet, steady hum. That is your own mind coming online for the first time in years. That is your intuition speaking. That is your strategic intelligence emerging. You cannot hear that voice when you are surrounded by the noise of support groups and brainstorming sessions. Greatness is conceived in the void. Let us examine this from a purely logical standpoint. Devoid of emotion, collaborations fail at an alarming rate. Partnerships dissolve. Marriages end. The statistics are not in your favor. Whenever you introduce a second variable, another human being, into your equation for success, you exponentially increase complexity and the probability of failure. Human beings are inherently volatile. They become ill. They lose interest. They become envious. They change their priorities. If your plan depends on another person behaving consistently, your plan contains a fatal flaw. Machiavelli advised the prince to avoid what he called auxiliary forces. These were armies borrowed from other powerful leaders. Why avoid them? Because if they lose, you are defeated, and if they win, you become their prisoner. Apply this principle to modern life. If you succeed using someone else's capital, connections, or platform, you are their prisoner. You must operate according to their rules. You must censor your message. You must compromise your vision. You must seek their approval for every decision. Succeeding with zero support is the only path to owning your soul completely. Is it more difficult? Yes. Does it sometimes take longer? Yes. Is it worth it? Always. You are constructing a foundation of granite rather than sand. The person who is lifted to the mountain peak by helicopter stands at the summit, but he has not developed the leg muscles required to stay there. If the wind blows, he falls. The person who climbed the mountain alone, clawing his way up the rock face, bleeding and sweating and freezing, has legs of steel. The wind cannot move him. He has become part of the mountain. You want to be the climber, not the passenger. This is why you must embrace difficulty rather than avoid it. When you encounter an obstacle and there is no one to call for help, do not panic, smile. This is the repetition that builds the muscle. This is where you learn genuine problem solving. If you have a mentor who simply gives you the answer, you learn nothing. You merely memorize a solution. If you must dig through complexity for 3 weeks to discover the answer yourself, you own that knowledge. It becomes encoded in your neural pathways. Zero support means maximum education. You are forced to learn marketing. You are forced to learn product development. You are forced to learn finance. You are forced to learn psychology. You become a polymath. You become a weapon of comprehensive competence. The specialist is easily replaced. Someone younger and cheaper will always emerge. But the generalist who constructed an entire system from scratch, who understands every component because he built every component, he is irreplaceable. So examine your empty contact list and say these words aloud. Thank you. Thank you for forcing me to become everything I needed. Now let us go deeper into the psychology of transformation. There exists a concept called sublimation. It is a psychological defense mechanism where you take socially unacceptable impulses or raw emotions and transform them into productive action. You are alone. You likely feel sadness, anger, or fear. The average person numbs these feelings. They consume alcohol. They scroll endlessly through social media. They watch pornography. They eat sugar and processed foods. They do anything to sedate the pain of isolation. You will do the opposite. You will feel the pain fully. You will not numb it or avoid it, and you will channel it directly into your work. Pain is energy. It is high-octane fuel. Have you noticed how much work you can accomplish when you are heartbroken, or when you are furious about an injustice? The outlier learns to access this energy source on command. You do not wait for a tragedy to motivate you. You use the ambient pain of your solitude as constant fuel. I am alone. Work harder. They ignored me. Create better. I am broke. Sell more. You create a conditioned response where pain triggers production instead of paralysis. This is how you become a machine. While others are paralyzed by their emotions, you are propelled forward by them. Machiavelli called this virtue, not moral virtue, but capability, prowess, effectiveness, the ability to impose your will on fortune rather than being swept along by it. Fortune is like a river, Machiavelli wrote, and she favors the bold. She favors the person who does not ask for permission. When you have support, you become soft. You feel safe. And safety is the death of ambition. You need to feel the edge of danger. You need to feel that if you stop swimming, you will drown. That survival instinct unlocks dormant capabilities in your brain. We are evolutionarily designed to survive threats. When you strip away the safety net of support, your primal brain activates. Your senses heighten. Your creativity spikes. You perceive opportunities you would miss if you were comfortable. Welcome the danger. Welcome the solitude. It is waking you up from a long sleep. Chunk 3, the integration of shadow and the dark fuel. We have discussed mindset and philosophy. Now we must address mechanics. Specifically, the fuel source that will power your engine when you are alone. When you are supported, you run on what I call light energy. Inspiration, joy, collaboration, encouragement. These are pleasant fuels, but they are unreliable. When you are alone, you must learn to run on dark energy. Carl Jung called this the shadow. Machiavelli called it the fox and the lion. Most people repress their dark side. They are taught from childhood that envy, aggression, and pride are sins. So they push these impulses down into the unconscious. They try desperately to be good, and because they are trying so hard to be good, they become harmless. You cannot succeed with zero support if you are harmless. To build something extraordinary from nothing, you need controlled aggression. You need the ability to look at a competitor and want to strategically dominate them, not through violence, through superior execution. You need the pride to believe that you deserve more than the crumbs society has offered you. You need the envy that transforms into motivation when you see someone else achieving what you want. Integrate your shadow. Stop feeling guilty about your ambition. Stop feeling guilty about wanting wealth. Stop feeling guilty about wanting to prove every doubter wrong. That darkness is not evil. It is compressed potential energy. Think of a rocket launching into space. It does not fly because it has noble intentions. It flies because it creates a controlled explosion at its base. Your shadow is that explosion. When you are alone at 11 at night and exhaustion is pulling you toward bed, inspiration will not save you. Inspiration is fickle. It abandons you when circumstances become difficult. But spite is loyal. Pride is eternal. Revenge, not literal revenge, but the desire to prove someone wrong, that is rocket fuel. Use these forces. Tell yourself this: if I quit now, the person who doubted me wins. If I stop working, I prove them right. If I give up, I validate every dismissive comment they ever made. It is a dirty fuel, yes, but it burns extraordinarily hot. And right now you need heat. You can switch to solar power later once you're in orbit, but to escape gravity you need fire. Machiavelli wrote something that is often overlooked. God is not willing to do everything, and thus take away our free will and that share of glory which belongs to us. He is telling you that you are expected to fight. You are expected to seize glory with your own hands. It will not be delivered to you. Do not be the nice person who finishes last. Be the integrated person who finishes first. Be polite in public. Be civilized in your dealings. But keep the monster on a leash inside you, ready to work when called upon. Now we must address the greatest danger you face. You have no boss. You have no team. You have no accountability partner checking on your progress. This is the danger zone. Most people, when left completely to their own devices, dissolve into entropy. They sleep until 10 in the morning. They scroll social media for hours. They work for 20 minutes, then take a break for 2 hours. They treat their freedom like a permanent vacation. If you do this, you will fail, metaphorically and financially. To succeed with zero support, you must become a strict dictator to yourself. You need what I call a protocol. A protocol is not a to-do list. A to-do list is a company. Lection of wishes. A protocol is law. First, the morning negotiation. The moment your eyes open, you enter a negotiation with yourself. The weak part of your brain wants to hit the snooze button. It wants 5 more minutes of comfort. You must win this first battle every single day. If you lose to the alarm clock, you have already signaled to your subconscious that you are not in charge. The day is lost before it begins. Second, deep work blocks. You do not work all day. That is a lie people tell to appear busy. You engage in deep work. You shut off your phone completely. You lock the door. You enter a trance state for 4 hours. In those 4 hours, you produce more value than a conventional corporation produces in a week. Why? Because you have no meetings interrupting your flow. You have no colleagues stopping by your desk. You have no bureaucratic procedures slowing you down. This is your asymmetrical advantage: speed, focus, and lethality of execution. Third, information diet. If you have no support, your mind is your only asset. If you fill it with garbage, you will produce garbage. Stop watching the news. It is designed to make you afraid and angry about things you cannot control. Stop watching drama and gossip content. Stop consuming material that makes you feel small or hopeless. Read philosophy instead. Read strategy. Read technical manuals in your field. Machiavelli studied the Romans and the Greeks. He did not study the gossip of Florence. He studied greatness to become great. Fourth, the evening review. At the end of each day, you must audit yourself. Stand in front of the mirror. Ask yourself this question: did I move the needle today, or did I just create the appearance of motion? You have no boss to give you a performance review. You must be the boss, and you must be a harsh one. If you fail to execute, admit it. Do not make excuses. Correct it tomorrow. Do not coddle yourself with comforting lies. This structure creates a container for your chaos. It replaces the external structure of employment or education with an internal structure of iron. Now let us address the biggest distraction facing the lonely builder. Now I must address something your mind is attempting to do right now. It is trying to reject what you are hearing. This is too difficult, it whispers. I need other people. Humans are social animals. This is your biology speaking. This is the prey instinct attempting to herd you back into the flock where it feels safe. But safety is an illusion. The sheep feels safe until the wolf arrives. The wolf feels safe because he is dangerous. Which one are you? The path of zero support is not for everyone. It is specifically designed for the outlier, the mutation, the anomaly. It requires you to be willing to look like a failure for an extended period so you can look like a legend forever. It requires you to suffer in darkness so you can shine in the light. Most people will close this audiobook and immediately text a friend to complain about their circumstances. They will seek the microdose of sympathy. They will feel slightly better for 10 minutes, and nothing in their life will change. But you are still here. You are still listening. You are analyzing. You are plotting. You are beginning to realize that the empty chair beside you is not a vacancy. It is a throne waiting for you to grow large enough to fill it. Let us now discuss what Machiavelli understood about the nature of power itself. Power is not what most people believe it to be. Most people see power as domination over others, as control, as the ability to impose will without resistance. Machiavelli saw power differently. He saw power as the ability to achieve desired outcomes consistently. Sometimes that requires force. Sometimes it requires persuasion. Sometimes it requires patience. Sometimes it requires strategic withdrawal. The form changes based on context, but the essence remains constant. Power is effective agency in the world. This reframing changes everything, because it means power is available to everyone, not equally, not without tremendous effort, but not exclusive to those with formal authority or inherited wealth. You possess power when you understand your environment clearly, when you make decisions based on reality rather than wishful thinking, when you adapt your approach to circumstances rather than demanding circumstances adapt to you, when you choose your battles strategically rather than fighting everything, when you build relationships based on mutual benefit rather than sentiment alone, when you structure commitments to survive human inconsistency. These capabilities are learnable. They require no special position. They require no exceptional resources. They require attention, discipline, and willingness to see things as they actually are. Machiavelli's work was not a manual for tyrants. It was a manual for effectiveness, for people who wanted to accomplish meaningful goals in a complex, competitive, often hostile world. The tyrants who read his work found justification for what they were already doing. But that was not his intention. His intention was to help capable people avoid being destroyed by less capable but more ruthless competitors, to help ethical people survive in environments where not everyone shares their ethics, to help builders protect what they build from those who only know how to take. This is why his insights remain relevant 5 centuries after his death, because the fundamental dynamics of human interaction have not changed. Technology has evolved dramatically. Political systems have transformed, but human nature remains constant. People still respond to incentives. They still seek advantage. They still form alliances and sometimes betray them. They still fear loss more intensely than they value equivalent gain. They still overestimate what they control. They still mistake sentiment for strategy. Understanding these patterns does not make you manipulative. It makes you competent. It gives you the ability to navigate reality effectively, rather than being battered by forces you do not understand. Machiavelli believed that awareness was the foundation of all other capabilities. You cannot respond appropriately to situations you do not perceive clearly. You cannot protect yourself from dynamics you do not understand. You cannot build anything lasting without comprehending the forces that could destroy it. Let us now examine the practical application of these principles to your specific situation. You are building something with zero support. This means you must become a complete system unto yourself. You must be the visionary who sees the destination. You must be the strategist who plans the route. You must be the executor who does the work. You must be the quality control inspector who maintains standards. You must be the financial controller who manages resources. You must be the marketer who communicates value. This is exhausting to contemplate, but it is also liberating, because you are not waiting for anyone. You are not dependent on anyone showing up. You are not vulnerable to anyone changing their mind. Consider the alternative. You have a business partner. You depend on them to handle the technical execution while you handle the marketing. What happens when they lose interest? What happens when they get sick? What happens when they meet someone and fall in love and move to another city? Your entire operation collapses. But if you built the entire system yourself, if you understand every component because you created every component, you are anti-fragile. Disruption makes you stronger because you adapt and evolve. This is the hidden advantage of building alone. You are forced to develop comprehensive competence. Most people specialize narrowly because they rely on others to fill the gaps. You cannot afford that luxury. So you learn broadly. You learn how to write compelling copy. You learn basic design principles. You learn financial modeling. You learn customer psychology. You learn systems thinking. 5 years from now, you will possess a skill set that is nearly impossible to replicate. Because most people never develop it. They outsource, they delegate, they collaborate, and in doing so, they remain dependent. You will be independent, and independence, true independence, is the rarest and most valuable form of wealth. Now let me share something about time that most people misunderstand. People believe that having a team makes you faster. This is sometimes true at scale, but it is false at the beginning. At the beginning, having a team makes you slower, because you must communicate. You must align on vision. You must manage different working styles. You must resolve conflicts. You must make decisions by consensus or at least explain your decisions. All of this takes time. When you work alone, you eliminate all of that friction. You think of an idea at 9 in the morning. By 9 that evening, it can be fully executed and live in the world. No meetings, no approvals, no compromises. This speed is your weapon. While competitors with large teams are still debating the plan, you have already executed, gathered data, and iterated 3 times. You are operating inside their decision loop. This is a concept from military strategy called the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. The entity that can complete this cycle faster than their opponent wins. You can complete this cycle faster than anyone because you have zero bureaucracy. Use this advantage ruthlessly. Move fast, test fast, fail fast, learn fast, iterate fast. By the time the supported builders finish their planning phase, you are already in your 3rd generation of execution. This is how David defeats Goliath. Not through superior strength, through superior speed and adaptability. Let us now address the psychological warfare you are conducting against yourself, because that is what this is. You have been programmed since birth to seek approval from external authorities, parents, teachers, bosses, society. This programming runs deep. It is not easy to override. When you choose to build with zero support, you are essentially telling that programming to shut down. The programming will fight back. It will generate thoughts designed to pull you back into the herd. You are being selfish. You are being arrogant. You are going to fail and everyone will laugh at you. You need to be realistic. These thoughts feel like they are coming from you, but they are not. They are echoes of every authority figure who ever told you to be realistic, every teacher who said you were not special, every parent who projected their fears onto you, every friend who could not conceive of a life different from their own. You must learn to identify these thoughts as foreign invaders, not as truth. When the thought arises, you need help. You must interrogate it. Do I actually need help, or do I simply want comfort? Is this task genuinely impossible alone, or is it just uncomfortable? Am I seeking support, or am I seeking permission to quit? 9 times out of 10, you do not actually need help. You need to sit with discomfort long enough for the solution to emerge. The solution is already inside you, but it is buried beneath layers of conditioning that tell you to outsource your problems. Machiavelli would tell you to trust your own judgment, to develop your own strategic thinking, to become dangerous in your competence. There is a concept in psychology called learned helplessness. It occurs when an organism is repeatedly subjected to an aversive stimulus it cannot escape. Eventually, even when escape becomes possible, the organism does not attempt it. It has learned that it is helpless. Most people suffer from learned helplessness regarding their own potential. They were told so many times that they need others, that they cannot succeed alone. that they now believe it. Even when the evidence contradicts it, even when the path forward is clear, they do not take it because they have learned helplessness. You must unlearn this. You must prove to yourself, through repeated action, that you are not helpless, that you can solve problems, that you can generate income, that you can create value, that you can learn new skills. Each small victory is evidence against the helplessness narrative. Document these victories. Keep a journal of problems you solved alone, decisions you made that turned out well, skills you acquired through self-directed learning. This becomes your evidence file. When doubt attacks, and it will attack repeatedly, you open the evidence file. You remind yourself of what you have already accomplished with zero support, and you realize that you can do it again. This is how you build unshakable confidence, not through affirmations, not through positive thinking, through evidence, through a track record of effectiveness that you cannot deny. Let us discuss resources. People believe they need money to start, they need capital, they need investment. This is true for certain types of ventures. If you are building a semiconductor manufacturing plant, yes, you need substantial capital. But most people are not building semiconductor plants. They are building service businesses, information products, creative works, or skill-based offerings. These require minimal capital. They require time and attention, both of which you have in abundance when you are alone. You have no social obligations consuming your evenings. You have no relationship drama consuming your mental energy. You have no children requiring your attention, or if you do, you work while they sleep. Your poverty of resources is actually a wealth of time. Use it. The person with unlimited capital but limited time cannot outwork you. They will try to buy their way to the outcome. You will build your way to the outcome. Their solution will be expensive and brittle. Your solution will be cheap and resilient. When market conditions change, their expensive infrastructure becomes a liability. Your lean operation adapts overnight. Machiavelli observed that princes who relied on their own ARMS were more secure than those who relied on mercenaries. Mercenaries fight for money. When the money stops, they leave. Your own arms, your own capabilities are always available. They cannot be bought away by a competitor. They cannot quit because they are you. Build your castle with your own hands, not because it is romantic, because it is strategic. The doctrine of strategic invisibility. There is a phase in the journey of every self-made individual that is rarely discussed. I call it the invisible years. These are the years where you are working intensely, but no one sees the work. You are building, but nothing is visible yet. You are planting seeds, but the harvest has not arrived. During these invisible years, you will be tempted to announce your progress, to post updates on social media, to tell people what you are working on. Resist this temptation with everything you have. The invisible years are sacred. They are where the transformation actually occurs, not in the outcome, but in the process. During these years, you are not just building a product or a business. You are building yourself. You are rewiring your neural pathways. You are developing discipline that will serve you for decades. You are learning to derive satisfaction from the work itself rather than from external validation. If you break the invisibility by seeking attention too early, you interrupt the alchemical process. You let the pressure escape. You give yourself a false sense of achievement simply from talking about what you plan to do. Machiavelli understood the power of operating in shadow. He observed that princes who announced their plans gave their enemies time to prepare, but princes who moved in silence struck before opposition could organize. You have enemies. Not people who hate you personally, but people who benefit from you staying small. People whose own mediocrity is highlighted by your excellence. People who feel uncomfortable when someone breaks free from the herd. If you announce your plans, these people will subtly sabotage you, not through dramatic confrontation, through small comments, through raised eyebrows, through questions designed to plant doubt. Are you sure that is a good idea? Have not other people tried that and failed? Do you really think you can compete with established players? Each question is a small leak in your confidence. Death by 1,000 doubts. Operate in silence until you have results that cannot be questioned, until you have proof, until the work speaks louder than any announcement ever could. Then and only then do you emerge from the shadows, and when you emerge as a force, not as a hope. This is the Machiavellian approach. Do not tell them what you are going to do. Show them what you have already done. Now let us examine the specific psychology of endurance, because that is what this requires. Endurance, not motivation. Motivation is an emotion. Emotions fluctuate wildly. Some days you feel motivated, other days you feel nothing. If you rely on motivation, you will work inconsistently, and inconsistent work produces no results. You need endurance. Endurance is not an emotion, it is a decision. It is the decision that you will continue regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether you see progress, regardless of whether anyone notices. This decision must be made once, absolutely, with no possibility of reversal. Think of it as crossing a river and burning the bridge behind you. There is no going back. There is only forward. Most people never make this absolute decision. They keep one foot on the bridge. They tell themselves they will try this for a while and see how it goes. This tentative commitment guarantees failure, because the moment difficulty arrives, they will retreat across the bridge, burn the bridge, make the decision absolute. I will succeed at this or I will die trying, not literally die, but I will exhaust every option before I quit. This level of commitment changes your neurology. Your brain stops wasting energy calculating exit strategies. It redirects all that energy towards solving the problem in front of you. When retreat is not an option, advance becomes inevitable. Machiavelli wrote about the nature of necessity. He observed that soldiers fight more fiercely when they have no option to retreat, when the bridge is burned and the only way home is through the enemy. This is why you must eliminate your own retreat options. Do not keep a backup plan. Do not tell yourself you can always get a normal job if this does not work out. That backup plan is a trap. It is a psychological escape hatch that your mind will gravitate toward the moment things become difficult. Close the hatch. Seal it permanently. Make this your only option. When it is your only option, you will find a way. The human mind is extraordinarily creative when survival is at stake, but it is lazy when comfort is available. Remove the comfort option. Now I want to address something uncomfortable, the role of suffering in transformation. Our culture has become allergic to suffering. We are told that suffering is bad and should be eliminated, that comfort is good and should be maximized. This is a lie that keeps people weak. Suffering is not the enemy. Purposeless suffering is the enemy. But suffering in service of a goal, suffering with meaning attached to it, is the forge where character is formed. You are alone. This causes suffering. You are uncertain about the outcome. This causes suffering. You are working while others are relaxing. This causes suffering. Do not run from this suffering. Do not numb it. Embrace it. Reframe it. This suffering is the price of admission to the life you want. It is tuition you are paying to the universe. Every hour of discomfort is an investment. Every moment of loneliness is a deposit into your future account. The suffering is not punishment. It is transformation. Steel is not made in comfort. It is made in fire. You are being forged. The heat is not pleasant, but it is necessary. Machiavelli understood that great leaders were often formed through adversity. Those who had everything handed to them rarely developed the strength to hold on to it. But those who clawed their way up from nothing developed an unbreakable grip. Your zero support is creating that unbreakable grip. Let us now discuss the concept of strategic positioning. When you have no resources and no support, you cannot compete directly with established players. If you try to compete head-on, you will be crushed. They have more money, they have more people, they have more distribution. Direct competition is suicide. Instead, you must find the gap, the overlooked niche, the underserved audience, the inefficiency in the market. This requires deep observation. You must study your field not as a participant, but as an anthropologist. What are the established players doing? More importantly, what are they not doing? What are they too big or too comfortable to bother with? That is your opening. Every giant has blind spots. Bureaucracy creates blind spots. Success creates blind spots. Comfort creates blind spots. You are small and hungry and have nothing to lose. This allows you to see what they cannot see and to move where they cannot move. Find the inefficiency, the gap between what customers want and what providers deliver. Position yourself in that gap. Serve it obsessively. Become the absolute best option for that specific need. Do not try to be everything to everyone. Be everything to a specific someone. Dominate the niche so completely that you become synonymous with the solution. When people have that specific problem, your name is the only name they think of. This is how you build power from nothing, not by competing where everyone else competes, but by creating a category where you are the only option. Machiavelli would call this strategic positioning, understanding the terrain and choosing the battlefield, where your advantages are maximized and your disadvantages are minimized. Now let me share something about patience that contradicts common advice. You are told to be patient, to trust the process, to wait for the right moment. This advice is half true. You must be patient with results. Results take time to compound. But you must be impatient with action. Action must be immediate and relentless. Do not confuse patience with passivity. Patience means you do not expect overnight success. You understand that meaningful achievement requires sustained effort over extended time. But impatience with action means you do not wait for perfect conditions. You do not wait until you feel ready. You act now with what you have. You act imperfectly. You act before you are ready. Because action creates information. Information creates clarity. Clarity creates better action. This is the cycle of progress. But if you never initiate the cycle because you are waiting for perfect conditions, you remain stuck in analysis paralysis. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors the bold, not the reckless, but the bold, those who act decisively when others hesitate, those who move while others are still planning. Speed is a weapon that the unsupported individual possesses in abundance. Use it. Act faster than seems reasonable. Make decisions faster than seems wise. Learn faster than seems possible. This velocity will compensate for your lack of resources. Let us now address the topic of failure, because you will fail, repeatedly. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. The question is not whether you will fail. The question is how you will interpret failure. Most people interpret failure as evidence of inadequacy. I failed, therefore I am a failure. This interpretation is poison. It makes failure about identity rather than about action. If you believe you are a failure, you stop trying, because failures do not succeed, so why bother? You must interpret failure differently. Failure is data. It is feedback from reality. It is the universe telling you that this specific approach does not work. Try a different approach. The failure is not about you. It is about the method. You remain constant. The method changes. Thomas Edison famously said he did not fail 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. He successfully discovered 1,000 ways that do not work. This is not semantic wordplay. This is a fundamental reframing that determines whether you persist or quit. When you fail, and you will, conduct a ruthless post-mortem analysis. What specifically did not work? Why did it not work? What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? Extract the lesson. Document it. Then discard the emotional weight of the failure. Do not carry it. It will slow you down. Learn from it and release it. This is how you fail forward. Each failure makes you more sophisticated, more calibrated to reality, more dangerous as a competitor. While others are avoiding failure, you are accumulating failure wisdom. This wisdom becomes your competitive moat. It cannot be taught. It cannot be bought. It can only be earned through direct experience. Machiavelli studied the failures of princes as carefully as he studied their successes, because failure reveals truth that success often obscures. Success can be attributed to luck, but patterns of failure reveal systemic problems that must be corrected. Embrace your failures as education. They are expensive education. They cost you time, energy, and sometimes money, but they are worth infinitely more than any course you could purchase, because they are customized to your specific situation. Now let us discuss the inflection point, the moment when your sustained effort finally breaks through resistance and begins to compound. This moment is impossible to predict. It could come in 6 months. It could come in 3 years. But if you persist, it will come. And when it comes, everything changes. Suddenly, the work that was invisible becomes visible, the doors that were closed begin to open. The people who ignored you begin to pay attention. It feels sudden, but it is not sudden. It is the result of accumulated effort finally reaching critical mass. Think of it like pushing a massive boulder up a hill. For months or years you push with all your strength, and the boulder barely moves. The progress is so slow. It seems non-existent. This is where most people quit. They decide the boulder is too heavy, that the hill is too steep, that they are not strong enough. But if you continue pushing, eventually the boulder reaches the peak of the hill, and then gravity shifts from enemy to ally. The boulder begins to roll down the other side. Now the same effort that barely moved it uphill creates exponential movement downhill. This is the inflection point. Your job is to push through the uphill phase, to keep pushing when progress is invisible, to keep pushing when every muscle screams at you to stop, because once you reach the peak, momentum takes over. And momentum is the most powerful force in achievement. But you cannot access momentum until you have done the work that appears to generate no momentum. This is the test. This is what separates the builders from the dreamers. Dreamers quit during the uphill phase. Builders push until gravity reverses. Let us now examine what happens inside your mind during extended periods of isolation and intense work. There is a phenomenon that occurs, a phenomenon that most people never experience because they never allow themselves to be truly alone with their thoughts for long enough. I call it the second consciousness. When you spend enough time in solitude, working toward a singular goal, a strange thing begins to happen. The constant chatter of your mind begins to quiet. The anxious voice that constantly seeks approval begins to fade. And something else emerges, a deeper, quieter voice. This voice does not speak in words exactly. It speaks in knowing, in intuition, in sudden clarity about what must be done next. This is your strategic intelligence coming online. It was always there, but it was drowned out by the noise of social obligation and external validation seeking. When you remove that noise, this intelligence can finally be heard. Machiavelli accessed this intelligence. You can read it in his writing, the clarity, the penetrating observation, the ability to see patterns that others missed. This did not come from books alone. It came from solitude, from reflection, from sitting alone in his farmhouse with nothing but his thoughts and his observations. You must cultivate this same capacity. Set aside time for what I call strategic silence. Not meditation in the traditional sense, but time where you sit with a single question and allow your mind to explore it without interruption. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and the question, what is the next right move in my situation? Where is the weakness in my current approach? What am I not seeing? Do not force answers. Let them emerge. The second consciousness does not respond to force. It responds to space. When you create space, it fills that space with insight. This is how you develop strategic thinking that appears almost supernatural to others. They will ask how you saw an opportunity they missed, how you predicted an outcome they did not see coming. The truth is simple. You spent time in silence, while they spent time in noise. Silence is where strategy is born. Now I must address a trap that catches many people who walk this path. The trap of bitterness. When you build alone and watch others succeed with support, bitterness can creep in. Why do they have help and I do not? Why is it easy for them and hard for me? This bitterness is poison. It will destroy you from the inside. You must transmute bitterness into fuel, but not let it become your identity. Yes, use the unfairness as motivation, but do not let it make you resentful. Resentment is a weight you carry that only slows you down. Machiavelli wrote extensively about managing emotions. He observed that princes who allowed emotion to dictate strategy made catastrophic errors. Anger has its place, as fuel, but not as a compass. Your compass must be cold rationality. What will actually move me closer to my goal? Not what feels satisfying in the moment, not what allows me to express my frustration. What will work? This question must dominate all others. If expressing your bitterness will not help you win, then do not express it. Keep it contained. Use it privately as fuel, but present a calm, strategic exterior to the world. This emotional discipline is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It allows you to operate effectively while others are being tossed around by their emotional storms. Let us now discuss the concept of strategic relationships. I have said, you must build alone, but this does not mean you can never accept help or form alliances. It means you must be strategic about when and how you do so. The key is this: you must build from a position of strength, not weakness. When you are weak and desperate, any offer of help looks attractive. You will accept terrible terms. You will compromise your vision. You will give away equity or control that you should have retained. But when you have built something substantial on your own, when you have proven the concept and demonstrated traction, you negotiate from power. Now, when someone offers to help, you can evaluate whether their help actually serves your strategic interests, or whether they are simply trying to attach themselves to your success. Machiavelli advised that a prince should avoid becoming obligated to powerful allies, because obligation is a chain. The person you are obligated to owns a piece of your decision-making. Build alone until you have something valuable. Then, and only then, consider strategic partnerships, and when you do, structure them so that the value exchange is clear and balanced, so that you retain control of the core vision, so that the partnership enhances your power rather than constraining it. This is the difference between strategic alliance and desperate dependency. One multiplies your power, the other dilutes it. Now let me address the physical dimension of this journey, because it is not purely mental. When you are working alone with zero support, your body is your vehicle. If the vehicle breaks down, everything stops. You cannot afford to neglect your physical health. You have no sick days. You have no one to cover for you. If you become ill, revenue stops, progress stops, everything stops. Therefore, physical resilience is not optional. It is strategic necessity. Sleep must be protected, not 8 hours necessarily, but consistent, quality sleep. Your brain requires sleep to consolidate learning and maintain cognitive function. If you sacrifice sleep to work more hours, you are being penny-wise and pound-foolish. You will work more hours but produce less value because your cognitive capacity is degraded. Nutrition must be considered. You do not need a perfect diet, but you need fuel that sustains energy rather than creating crashes. Highly processed foods create inflammation and brain fog. You cannot afford brain fog. Your mind is your primary asset. Feed it properly. Movement must be maintained. You do not need to become an athlete, but you need to move your body regularly. Sitting motionless for 12 hours while you work creates physical breakdown that will catch up with you. Brief walks, basic strength training, anything that prevents your body from atrophying. Machiavelli himself wrote about the importance of physical vigor for leaders. He observed that a prince must maintain the capacity for action, that physical weakness creates strategic vulnerability. You are your own prince, your own leader. Maintai. End the vehicle. Now let us examine the long game, because that is what you are playing, the long game. Most people are playing the short game. They want results this month, this quarter, this year. When results do not come quickly, they quit and try something else. They are constantly starting over, constantly in the beginner phase, never building momentum. You are playing a different game. You are playing the decade game. Where will I be in 10 years if I continue on this path? That is the question that matters, not where will I be in 3 months. 3 months is noise. 10 years is signal. If you commit to something for 10 years, genuinely commit, you will reach a level of mastery that is inaccessible to those who hop between pursuits. You will develop depth of knowledge. You will build a body of work. You will create a reputation. These things cannot be rushed. They can only be accumulated through sustained focus over extended time. This is why the person with zero support can actually win in the long run, because they are forced to take the long view. They have no shortcuts available. They cannot raise venture capital and try to scale prematurely. They cannot leverage someone else's platform and grow artificially fast. They must grow organically, steadily, sustainably. This slower growth creates a stronger foundation. When the market shifts, the person who grew fast on borrowed resources collapses, but the person who grew slowly on their own foundation adapts and continue. Machiavelli observed that states built on solid foundations endured, while states built on luck or the arms of others crumbled when fortune shifted. You are building on solid foundation, your own capability. This takes longer to build, but once built, it cannot be taken from you. Now I want to address a specific psychological attack you will face, the comparison trap. You will see others who started after you achieving visible success before you. They will have more followers, more revenue, more recognition. This will hurt. It will make you question whether you are on the right path, whether you are doing something wrong, whether you simply lack what it takes. You must develop immunity to comparison. Here is how. First, recognize that you are seeing their highlight reel, not their reality. You see their success. You do not see their advantages, the family money that funded them, the industry connections that opened doors, the partner who handles half the work. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes struggle to their public success. This is not a fair comparison. Second, recognize that different paths have different timelines. The person who scales fast often crashes fast. The person who builds slowly often lasts longer. You are not in the same race. You are running different races entirely. Third, use comparison as information, not as judgment. If someone is succeeding in your space, study what they are doing. Extract lessons, but do not make it mean something about you. Our worth. They are data points, not verdicts. Machiavelli studied other princes not to feel inferior, but to learn. He observed what worked. He observed what failed. He extracted principles, but he did not compare his situation to theirs emotionally. He compared strategically. Do the same. Let us now discuss the concept of strategic documentation. As you build alone, you must document your journey, not for public consumption, for your own clarity. Keep a builder's journal. Every day, write 3 things. What did I build today? What did I learn today? What will I build tomorrow? This simple practice creates multiple benefits. First, it forces you to acknowledge progress. When you're in the middle of building, progress often feels invisible, but when you read your journal from 3 months ago, you see how far you have actually come. This prevents the demoralization that comes from feeling stuck. Second, it creates accountability. When you write what you will build tomorrow, you have created a commitment to yourself. The next day, you must either do it or write about why you did not. This friction prevents drift. Third, it captures lessons while they are fresh. Insights fade quickly. When you document them immediately, you preserve them. 6 months later, you can review and see patterns you missed in the moment. This journal becomes a strategic asset. It is your personal textbook of what works in your specific situation. No guru can give you this. No course can teach you this. Only direct experience can create it, and documentation preserves experience so it becomes wisdom rather than just memory. Machiavelli's writings were essentially his documentation of observed patterns. He watched leaders succeed and fail. He documented what he saw. Those documents became the prints and the discourses. Your journal will not become a published book, but it will become something more valuable, your personal strategic manual, written specifically for your situation, by the only person who truly understands your situation, you. Now let me address the question of when this gets easier. The hard truth is that it does not get easier. It gets different. The challenges of the beginning phase are replaced by the challenges of the growth phase, which are replaced by the challenges of the scale phase. Each phase has its own difficulties. But here is what does change. You change. You become more capable. You become more confident. You become more skilled. So the challenges that would have destroyed you in year 1 become manageable in year 3. Not because the challenges are smaller, but because you are larger. This is why you must focus on becoming rather than achieving. Achievements are external. They can be taken away. Becoming is internal. It cannot be taken away. When you focus on becoming more capable, more disciplined, more strategic, the achievements follow as a natural consequence. But if you focus only on the achievements, you remain small while reaching for big outcomes, and small people cannot hold big outcomes. They slip through your fingers. become large enough to hold what you want to build. Machiavelli wrote about virtue, the quality of effectiveness and capability. This is what you are building. Not success, not wealth, but the capability that makes success inevitable. The sovereign self and the architecture of legacy. We have now reached the final stage of understanding, the stage where everything we have discussed integrates into a complete philosophy, a philosophy not just for success, but for sovereignty. Let us begin with the ultimate truth that Machiavelli understood, but rarely stated directly. The goal is not to accumulate power over others. The goal is to become ungovernable by others, sovereignty. When you build with zero support, you are not just building a business or a career. You are building a self that cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken by the withdrawal of external approval. This is the real prize. Not the money, though money will come. Not the recognition, though recognition will come. But the internal fortress, the unshakable core, the part of you that knows with absolute certainty that you can survive and thrive regardless of external circumstances. This certainty changes everything. It changes how you negotiate. When you know you can walk away, you negotiate from strength. It changes how you relate to others. When you do not need their approval, they sense it and respect you more. It changes how you make decisions. When you are not afraid of losing support, you can make the correct decision rather than the popular one. Sovereignty is the ultimate form of wealth, because all other forms of wealth can be taken, money can be lost, property can be seized, relationships can dissolve, but sovereign. Thank you once achieved lives inside you. It cannot be taxed, it cannot be confiscated, it cannot be voted away. Machiavelli wrote The Prince during exile, stripped of position, wealth, and influence. But he retained his sovereignty, his ability to think clearly, to observe accurately, to write powerfully. No one could take that from him. And 500 years later, his thoughts shape the world, while the names of those who exiled him are forgotten. This is the power of sovereignty. Now let us discuss what you will do once you have succeeded. Once the zero support phase has ended and you have built something substantial, you will face a choice that will define your character. The choice is this: will you forget where you came from? Will you become like those who had support and failed to appreciate it? Or will you remember? Will you remain connected to the struggle? Will you use your position to help others who are where you once were? I am not suggesting you become a charity. I am suggesting you become strategic in your generosity. Machiavelli understood that the wise prince creates loyalty by conferring benefits selectively, not to everyone, but to those who demonstrate worthiness. When you have built your empire, look for the builders who are where you once were, working alone, zero support, on the edge of quitting, but still pushing. These are your people, not the networkers, not the people asking for handouts, but the ones who are building in silence. When you find them, offer what you wish someone had offered you, not money necessarily, but attention, but advice, but a connection that actually helps. Do this not from obligation, but from strategy. You are building an alliance of people who understand the code, who know what it takes to build from nothing, who will not take your help for granted because they know its value. Over time, this becomes your true network, not a network of small talk and business cards, but a network of tested individuals, people who proved they could build alone and now choose to build together. This is how you create something that lasts beyond yourself. Machiavelli wrote that the greatest princes created institutions that outlived them, not through bloodline, but through systems and cultures that continued after their death. You can do the same, not by having children, though you may, but by creating a culture, a methodology, a way of thinking that spreads through those you help, who then help others. Your sovereignty becomes their sovereignty, and the chain continues. Now I must address the dark night that comes for everyone on this path, usually in year 2 or 3, the dark night of the builder. This is the moment when you have been working for long enough that the initial excitement has faded, but not long enough that major results have appeared. You are in the valley, the trough of disillusionment. Everything feels pointless. You question why you are doing this. You wonder if you are deluding yourself. You look at people with normal jobs and normal lives and envy their simplicity. This moment is the final test. Most people quit here. They are so close to breakthrough, but they cannot see it. So they give up. They tell themselves they gave it a fair shot. They return to the conventional path, and they spend the rest of their lives wondering what would have happened if they had continued just a little longer. You must survive the dark night. Here is how. First, expect it. Knowing it is coming removes some of its power. It is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is a sign that you are on the right path. All builders go through this. Second, do not make major decisions during the dark night. Your judgment is compromised. Your emotions are distorted. Commit to continuing for 6 more months before you evaluate whether to quit. Usually, by the time 6 months pass, the dark night has lifted. Third, return to your why. Why did you start this? What were you trying to escape? What were you trying to build? Reconnect with that original motivation. It still exists. It is just buried under exhaustion. Dig it out. Fourth, reduce the scope temporarily. If you have been sprinting, walk for a while. You do not need to quit. You just need to not burn out, lower the intensity temporarily while you recover, then resume the sprint. Machiavelli observed that princes who knew when to rest and when to push lasted longer than those who pushed constantly until they broke. Strategic rest is not weakness, it is sustainability. Survive the dark night. On the other side is everything you have been working toward. Let us now discuss legacy, because that is what you are actually building. Most people think legacy is what you leave behind after death, but real legacy is what you create while alive that continues to generate value after you are gone. Legacy is not about being remembered. Legacy is about impact that compounds. When you build something with zero support, you create a specific type of legacy, a legacy of proof. Proof that it can be done. Proof that support is not required. Proof that an individual with nothing but determination can create something meaningful. This proof matters more than you realize, because right now, someone is reading about you, or will read about you, someone who feels alone, who has no support, who is on the edge of giving up, and your story, your proof, will be the thing that keeps them going. This is legacy, not monuments, not your name on a building, but the chain reaction of inspired action that your existence triggers. Machiavelli's legacy is not his tomb. It is the millions of people across 5 centuries who read his words and thought more clearly about power and strategy. Your legacy will be the people who see what you built and realize they can build too. Now, let me address the final question. What does victory look like? How do you know when you have succeeded? Victory is not a destination. It is a state of being. You have achieved victory when you no longer need external validation to know you are on the right path. When you can look at your work and feel satisfaction regardless of whether anyone else notices. When you can face loss without despair because you know you can rebuild. When you can face success without arrogance because you know how fragile it is. When you can be alone without loneliness. When you can be in a crowd without losing yourself. When you can give from abundance rather than taking from scarcity. This is victory. Not in the external markers, though those will come, but in the internal state. The sovereignty we discussed, the unshakable core, the self that you built when no one was watching, that self is the victory. Everything else is just evidence of it. Machiavelli wrote The Prince as a manual for effectiveness, but embedded in that manual is a deeper teaching, that you must become the kind of person who can handle power before you seek power. That capability precedes achievement. That character precedes success. You have spent this entire audiobook building capability and character, in silence, with zero support. This is not a disadvantage. This is your certification, your proof that you are ready for what comes next, because what comes next will test you. Success brings new challenges, visibility brings new attacks, growth brings new complexity, but you are ready, because you were forged in fire, because you learned to walk alone before you learned to lead others, because you built your foundation on solid ground rather than borrowed support. Now, I want to leave you with a final framework, the framework of continuous becoming. You are never finished. You are never complete. You are always in the process of becoming. Every day you wake up and choose who you will be that day. Will you be the person who needs support, or the person who is self-sufficient? Will you be the person who waits for permission, or the person who grants themselves permission? Will you be the person who makes excuses, or the person who makes progress? These are not one-time choices. These are daily choices, moment-by-moment choices. The path of zero support is not something you walk once and complete. It is a way of being that you practice forever. Even when you have support available, you retain the capacity to build without it. Even when you have resources, you retain the discipline of scarcity. Even when you have recognition, you retain the humility of obscurity. This is how you stay dangerous. This is how you stay relevant. This is how you continue growing while others plateau. Machiavelli remained a student of power until his death, always observing, always learning, always refining his understanding. You must do the same. Never stop learning from your experience. Never stop documenting your observations. Never stop challenging your assumptions. The moment you think you have figured it all out is the moment you begin declining. Stay hungry. Stay humble. Star. Why building? Now, let me speak directly to you. Not to an audience, but to you, the individual listening to these words right now. You are alone. I know because that is who this audiobook attracts. The ones who are building something while everyone else is sleeping. The ones who carry a vision that no one else can see yet. The ones who feel the weight of isolation but continue anyway. I want you to know something. What you are doing matters, not because I say so, not because anyone will applaud you today, but because you are participating in something ancient and honorable, the tradition of the builder, the creator, the individual who refuses to accept the world as it is and insists on making it what it could be. This tradition extends back thousands of years. Every civilization was built by people like you, people who worked when they were tired, who continued when they were discouraged, who built when they had no support. You are not alone in being alone. You are part of a lineage of sovereign individuals who change the world not through committees or consensus, but through individual will and capability. Machiavelli is part of this lineage, and now, so are you. So keep building, keep learning, keep growing. The world needs what you are creating, even if it does not know it yet. The people you will help are waiting, even if they have not met you yet. The legacy you will leave is forming, even if you cannot see it yet. Trust the process, trust yourself, and remember this: the empty room is not a void, it is a canvas, and you are the artist. Paint something magnificent. This is the end of the audiobook, but it is the beginning of your implementation. Everything you have heard must now be tested against reality. Go build, in silence, with zero support, and prove that sovereignty is not given. It is taken, it is built, it is earned, one solitary day at a time. Go now. The work awaits, and you are ready.